Idi Amin's path to power was paved within the British colonial military, known as the King's African Rifles, KAR. He was born in the mid-1920s into the small Kakwa ethnic group. Although he lacked formal education, he possessed a physical presence and athletic prowess. He was Uganda's light heavyweight boxing champion for nearly a decade. These traits helped him rise through the ranks, eventually becoming one of the first black African officers in the Ugandan army after the country gained independence from Britain in 1962. Amin became a close ally of Uganda's first Prime Minister, Milton Obote. Together, they consolidated power, but by the late 1960s, their relationship soured. Obote grew suspicious of Amin's growing influence and corruption, specifically involving the smuggling of gold and ivory. In January 1971, while Obote was attending a Commonwealth summit in Singapore, he planned to have Amin arrested. Learning about this, Amin struck first. On January 25, 1971, he staged a military coup and overthrew Obote's regime. Initially, the public welcomed him, as he promised a return to civilian rule and freed political prisoners. However, this honeymoon was short-lived. Amin quickly suspended the constitution, declared himself president for life, and began a systematic purge of Obote supporters, primarily from the Akali and Lango ethnic groups. By 1978, Amin's regime was fracturing. His decision to expel Uganda's Asian population in 1972 had crippled the economy, and the economic war he declared had resulted in widespread shortages and hyperinflation. More dangerously for Amin, the military, which was his only pillar of support, was beginning to mutiny. Discontent grew among various factions, and an assassination attempt on his vice president, Mustafa Idrissi, led to further instability. To distract his restless troops and unify his crumbling government, Amin looked for an external enemy. He chose Tanzania, led by President Julius Nyerere. Julius Nyerere had long been a thorn in Amin's side. He had refused to recognize Amin's government and provided a safe haven for Milton Obote and thousands of Ugandan exiles. In October 1978, Amin ordered the invasion of the Kagera salient, a strip of Tanzanian land north of the Kagera River. The Ugandan army moved in with little resistance, looting the region, destroying infrastructure and murdering civilians. By evening, the invasion was completed. Amin appeared on the TV and boasted about his victory. He even mockingly challenging President Nyerere to a boxing match to settle the dispute. He officially announced the annexation of the invaded land, claiming it was historically Ugandan territory. Amin's boastfulness was a catastrophic error. Julius Nyerere, known as Mwalimu, the teacher, was a man of principle who viewed Amin as a menace to the continent. He famously declared, "We have the reason, we have the will, and we have the means to defeat the dictator." In the days that follows, Tanzania began a massive mobilization of its People's Defense Forces, TPDF. Although Tanzania was economically poorer than Uganda, its military was highly disciplined and ideologically motivated. They were joined by several groups of Ugandan exiles who formed the Uganda National Liberation Front, UNLF, led by the future president, Yoweri Museveni. In the weeks that follows, Tanzanians launched Operation Chakaza, meaning, to crush. By January 1979, the TPDF had expelled any trace of the Ugandan army from the Tanzanian land. Nyerere was now left with the options of whether to end the war there, or to take the war to Amin's doorstep. He chose the latter. And the following week, over 10,000 Tanzanian armies crossed the border into Uganda and the war was in full swing. In days that follows, the Tanzanian armies rained bullets and bombs into Uganda, killing thousands, wounding thousands, and destroying millions worths of properties. Amin, realizing his mistake, appealed to the international community and his ally, Muammar Gaddafi of Libya for support. Gaddafi sent several thousand Libyan troops, equipped with tanks and Tupolev bombers, to bolster Amin's forces. Despite Libyan intervention, the Ugandan army began to disintegrate. The decisive moment came in March 1979 at the Battle of Lakaya. Tanzanian forces encountered the Libyan-backed Ugandan army in a marshy area near Lake Victoria. The Libyans initially pushed the Tanzanians back, but the TPDF regrouped and launched a devastating counterattack at night. The Libyans, unfamiliar with the terrain and poorly coordinated with Amin's retreating soldiers, suffered heavy losses. The road to the capital, Kampala, was now open. In early April 1979, Tanzanian forces and Ugandan rebels reached the outskirts of the city. Amin's suicide battalion and other loyal units fled or surrendered. On April 11, 1979, Kampala fell. The citizens of the capital took to the streets in celebration, looting government buildings and tearing down symbols of the dictator's rule. Amin, seeing the end was near, fled by helicopter just as the city was being captured. He first escaped to Libya and eventually settled in Saudi Arabia, where he lived in comfortable exile until his death in 2003. He was never brought to justice for the estimated 300,000 lives lost during his 8-year reign of terror. The war left Tanzania with a massive debt, and Uganda with a power vacuum, that led to years of further civil conflict. But the butcher of Uganda was finally gone.